Hi, I'm Josh Gonzalez, and welcome to Meld. This is a podcast where I have in-depth conversations with some of the brightest people in the known universe. My aim is to spark deep conversations around interesting topics to find the tools, tactics, and philosophies that we can all use in our daily and creative lives. In this episode, I'm joined by the amazing Jani. James is a British documentary-style YouTuber where he creates videos around topics such as entrepreneurship, money, and business. Within just 4 short months of launching his YouTube channel back in January, his channel went from just a few hundred subscribers to now well over 300,000 subscribers just at the time that this podcast has been released. Some of his videos got picked up by the YouTube algorithm, and just within a few short weeks, these videos have already gained over 7.5 million views. That's just within 4 short months of launching his YouTube channel. Some of these videos are the untold truth about money, how to build wealth from nothing, the toxic world of self-help, hustle culture, toxic positivity, addiction, and fake gurus. And my personal favorite, the rise of fake gurus, the dark truth behind making millions from online courses. And you can find links to these videos in the show notes, which is linked in the description of this podcast. So go check them out and check out James's YouTube channel. Then come back and listen to this. In this episode, James talks about his sudden rise to YouTube fame and the virality of his videos, all while being quarantined in his home during COVID-19. And he talks about this unlikely story of how he quit acting, gave up his software company that he was building, and then just went all in on creating these educational YouTube content. James and I talk about his creative process for coming up with ideas for videos, how he gathers the research for them, and then how he ultimately writes the scripts and produces these videos. We also get into this world of the fake online gurus that he talks about in one of his videos, and sort of this rise in this new age entrepreneurship that people are being sold on. And we talk about how you can basically not fall prey to this. It's a great conversation where James and I talk about entrepreneurship, making money online, and just how to create really good content and be genuine and just do really cool stuff, which is what this podcast is all about, really. So I had a really great time chatting with James, and I hope you love this episode. As always, if you find any of this stuff interesting, fun, or you want to dive into more, I do have show notes and links to some of the stuff that we talk about in the description of this podcast. So just go to the link in the description of this podcast and go to my website where you will have links to basically everything we talk about. I make very detailed show notes so that you can go and explore the web from some of these ideas. And as always, if you find any of this stuff interesting, please subscribe and share this with your friends because that's how these things grow. So without further ado, I'm Josh Gonzalez, and this is Meld with James Jani. James, thanks so much for taking the time to come on Meld. I know this has been a long time in the making. We've been chatting for a while now, and you finally kind of take some time off in between some of your videos. So thanks so much for taking the time to come on here. This is amazing.
No, it's my pleasure, Josh. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man, I know. You've been just super busy because your YouTube channel just absolutely exploded. And I really want to start off with that because, like, when we first started talking, I think you had like maybe 8,000 subscribers, maybe something like that. Where are you at now, man? Like, it's been a roller coaster ride.
It's been one hell of a roller coaster ride in the last like month to 2 months. Right now, we're coming at I think 280,000. 284,000. Yeah, that's what it is. It's been insane. I mean, where do you want to start on this one?
Well, the first thing I want to bring up is like, man, it's not like you have thousands of videos or you have like all these videos are a huge following. You kind of went from like technically like 0 to 100 real quick with only a handful of videos. So what I kind of want to get into is like, I want to get into the nature of the videos because I think that's where the really interesting talks will come. But just for people listening to like learn about your story here, it's kind of like, man, like you only started posting a few months ago and you already have almost 300,000 subscribers. And like, how do you think that even happened? Is it just purely the quality? Is it like these algorithms? Like, what do you think it was?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a multifaceted answer. There's a lot of factors I think went into it, and trust me, I'm as blown away as you are by how fast that progress was, and as many of my audience have been like incredibly amazed by how fast things have progressed. At its core, I've always focused on creating really good quality content. That's always been the priority for me. And what you may notice with my channel is I'm not posting once every day. Like in the current kind of social media climate, you're often given the advice of post non-stop content. Whereas I've taken the opposite approach in the sense that I will only ever post a video once it's at the quality that I want. That's one thing. The second thing is I got fairly lucky in the sense that my second video, which was on this whole fake guru stuff, which I'm sure we're going to touch on in soon, but that was a topic that was slowly becoming a trend. And although I didn't intentionally at the time know that I was, hopping on that trend, that was the video that ended up blowing up the channel. And consequently, a lot of other videos on the channel ended up blowing up thanks to that. Then the third thing was understanding the algorithm. I did do a lot of algorithm research before starting this channel, which has helped me understand kind of how I should be looking at the channel from a data perspective and what specific metrics I should be looking for and how I should be kind of, I guess, quote unquote, equipping the channel to actually get a user to click on the video and actually watch it to the end. Those are some of the two most important factors when it comes to the YouTube algorithm. Understanding that was another big thing. And I guess combining these things together, plus the fact that I was starting in a niche that I think I had a very clear value proposition. I knew that in the entrepreneurship niche that there was this almost epidemic of like the fake gurus, the business gurus that I felt personally didn't have good advice, or that I felt weren't really genuine. And so I knew I could come in with a genuine voice, but I could also bring in my experiences with acting and my love for films into the mix as well to kind of create this, what I hope to be a very unique channel in the entrepreneurship niche, but with a well-established value proposition. And then essentially all these little factors combined is what I would say was the equation that led to where the channel is at the moment.
There you go. So there's the cookbook right there on how to
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, man. So you're a renowned chef now. That's awesome.
Literally.
Dude, it's so true though. Like when I came across your video, I think it was either the toxic self-help or the fake guru. I can't remember because I watched them both the same night. That came up on my feed and was like from a friend of mine that posted on YouTube, like not your video. She posted something and then right away your video was like recommended. And I think you're right. Like I think you really hit something on the psychology and like the design of like maybe the thumbnail on the what you're talking about. You came at like the perfect time. I was like, yeah, I want to check this out. And with that epidemic of fake gurus, I want to get into that because it's so true. You came at the perfect time. Like I feel like you just tapped into the zeitgeist because it's been happening over the last couple of years. I saw you put like Sam Ovens in there, Dan Locke.
Yeah, all of them.
Two of which my brother is fully invested in, both of them. We can get into that, man. Like it's crazy. I don't think he'll really care when I talk about it. Too bad for him. I'm telling you, he's a follower of Sam Ovens.
Really? Sam Ovens does have a very, it's interesting. Even on that video, I had so many comments saying, yeah, but Sam Ovens is legit. Sam Ovens is legit.
And he kind of is, but you're touching on something bigger than that. It's these people, like, he's just a really good example of like when you see these ads. And for a really good example is while I was watching the YouTube video, all the ads that I got were these fucking fake gurus as you're explaining it, right? You're like, here's exactly breaking down how they do it, and then you're watching in the video. So I think what you've done is like hopefully for the people who weren't aware of it, they've become aware of it, because I think what you really did was sort of wake people up to like, hey, this is actually bullshit. They don't know what they're talking about. They're selling you crap a lot of the time. And I think that's totally, I can definitely see why that was the video that blew up your channel, because it was just the perfect timing. And then the way that you do it, man, it's like, it is unique because you bring in like clips from actual films. The quality is amazing. It's documentary style. Like it's high quality. It's like something you could watch on Netflix, honestly.
Thank you.
And then like the tone of it is like subtly, like, I don't want to say conspiracy theory, but just like the tone, the music you use, and then your voice, like I think you can use that for some like really cool conspiracy shit, but like you're doing it for legit things. It's not like bullshit conspiracy. You're actually talking about real shit, which is awesome. So I think they all come together to make something really, really cool, and it's really unique.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And yeah, I'm glad you kind of mentioned that the video was intended to be on a much more, a bit more on a broader theme when it comes to these business gurus, which I guess we can touch on now if
let's do it.
Okay, so the mentality behind that video, or why I started it initially, was because I had gone down that whole rabbit hole myself. I never had an interest in entrepreneurship up until about, let's say, about a year and a bit ago. I was very acting, very, the theater kid. That was how people knew me in school. They knew, even if you didn't speak to me, I was that guy doing drama. That was the rep I'd built for myself. Then around I had this trip to Portugal, where I had like 500, 600 in my bank account, 400 in cash. I came back from that holiday. I had nothing in my bank account, had nothing in cash, and a broken phone, which is a whole story in and of itself. But I came back with a desire, or like, I guess, a wish, which I hadn't experienced before, which was, I need to make money. And before this, it's like when you're an actor, you just assume you're going to be broke until you make it. And that's the mentality that I had. And suddenly I was thrown in this position of like, dude, I have nothing. I've lost like any kind of savings, any of that. It's gone. So I started then going online and looking into how to make money online, et cetera, et cetera. And then lo and behold, these ads started popping up of, Tai Lopez. His ads were kind of in the past. I knew about them, but Tai Lopez-esque people and ads of that nature. I started getting more invested into these business gurus. And I went down a whole rabbit hole of even, there was a course that I didn't buy. I pirated, admittedly, because I couldn't even afford it, where it was talking about starting up a digital marketing agency, is sometimes called social media marketing agency. SMMA is the kind of abbreviated form of it, which is the business model of pretty much being an agency that goes to a business and runs their social media marketing for them. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with selling a course about that. It's the way in which it's pitched, which is the big problem. And the way in which it was sold to me was like, dude, I saw this course, I saw the advertising. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to break. I'm never going to have to work a 9 to 5 again. I'm going to, it's these typical words of like financial freedom. I'm going to be working, from home. I'm going to be traveling around the world, etc. They really catch you with these dreams. And they sell it as a lifestyle product and not really as what the product is. Which allows them to really mark up to ridiculous prices that they do. It's like $997 or $1,997, some even more than that. And I started a digital marketing agency with a friend of mine. And we did this for a solid, I would say like 5-6 months that we were doing this for. At this time, I was starting to lose my passion for acting as well, and I was starting to become much more business and entrepreneurship focused. And we started with a mentality of making money, which is a bad place to come from, I think, if you're starting any venture, because you're focused on just making money. There's no talk of what value you're providing to the market. There's no talk of what problem you're trying to solve. It's just, dude, we're going to sign up 10 people for £1,000. We're going to get 6 figures. Yeah, man, we're going to make so much money from this. Needless to say, we didn't sign up any paying clients. We had meetings where we were very close to signing them up. We had one trial client that we were working for a month. They ignored us at the end of the month, even though I feel like we did a pretty decent job on their social media accounts. And then it kind of came to a day, like after all of this was going on, October time last year, where it was like, I remember we were sitting there and I kind of just turned to my friend and essentially I was just like, I don't think this is working. I think we need to call it quits. And we both agreed, yeah, this is it. This is where it kind of ends. So during this period where we were doing this agency and where I was getting into business, I read one particular book. Now I'm not sponsored by the author or anything. I've literally I've mentioned his book 3 times in my videos. I'm not paid a single penny by MJ DeMarco, who I'm talking about. I just genuinely believe that his books helped me so much in understanding what the core values are that comes with entrepreneurship. It was the Millionaire Fastlane was the one I read. He's only got two. The first one that I read was Millionaire Fastlane. Immediately after reading that, I read Unscripted. And I vividly remember I was on the train about to get headshots for acting because I was still on and off about whether I was doing this. And I didn't even want to get the book because I didn't like the title. I thought like it was a bit of a cheesy title, Millionaire Fastlane, but it was recommended to me some other times. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. First few pages of reading that book, it was a very quick realization that what I was reading was I wasn't going to see things the same way after I finished it.
Absolutely.
You've probably felt this feeling before, like with certain things.
With that book in particular, The Millionaire Fastlane.
Oh, have you read it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, yeah.
My brother recommended that to me, and I read it. I haven't read Unscripted yet, but yeah, The Millionaire Fastlane totally implanted some mental models in my brain that I still use to this day, for sure.
Yeah, and it will become a theme now as I continue with this story. After reading that book, it made me so angry as well, because I was reading it and I was remembering all these gurus I had watched in these ads, all of these finance books. I was reading other finance books like the classic Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or Richest Man in Babylon, or just these Your Money, or like these books that were finance related. And I was reading this and I was so angry. I was like, why is it taken this long for someone to just put it this way? Why? And it was and to someone else who has studied economics or been in business and then had a proper business background, maybe the book will come up across as like pretty obvious stuff to talk about. But it was for me, who'd never come from that business, who was introduced to business and entrepreneurship via the whole gurus and influencer style of entrepreneurship, which is about, this romanticized concept of working on the beach and escaping your job and financial freedom, for someone to put it in a way that it's find a problem in the market to solve and present that solution to the market and create a business around it. You're paid in proportion to your perceived value in the market. Look to provide value to other people, and the money will come afterwards. Money will always chase value. For someone to put it that way, it was like, why has it taken this long? And everything just clicked. Everything clicked. So then after finishing that agency, I had that more restored mindset of, okay, now I'm going to be looking for problems. And I was working as two jobs, a store clerk and a call center. This was like from October to December. And during this time, I was like, okay, what problem can I solve? What problem can I solve? And I had a little notebook that I would write ideas every so often. And there was one issue where I noticed that a lot of people had the sentiment of, I wish I was taught money or personal finance skills in school. And I echoed that sentiment myself, like stuff about taxes, how a mortgage works, or how to even manage your money. All of these subjects that you're not really, I guess, taught properly in school, I felt. So I was like, okay, let me create a financial online learning platform for these subjects, kind of like if you've ever heard of Codecademy. So Codecademy is just essentially, for anyone that doesn't know, is like a online platform where you could learn how to code. We had it in school, we'd use it, and I thought it was a really cool thing because it made coding very accessible. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I created a Codecademy, but for like these sort of subjects, finance related subjects? And I built the site within about a month. I used WordPress because I didn't have any programming knowledge. I just built a very minimum viable product version of it just so that it had its basic functionalities. And as I built it, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I just created a YouTube channel to kind of indirectly promote the business as well? And so I did. But in order to start that channel, this is around January time, in order to start that channel, I had to learn how to edit videos. Now, I didn't realize this. This is a very unintentional consequence or realization, but all these skills I had developed in the past, which is acting, my love for films and movies, and also I loved writing as well. I never took it seriously, but I'd always loved writing throughout my childhood. All these skills, the one thing that I just needed to learn, I guess, to kind of connect the dots was video editing. And as soon as I learned video editing and I posted my first video, which was on universities, because in my head I was like, okay, what can I actually make a video on? I know a bit about universities, so I'll do that. As soon as I posted that video, it was like, whoa. Like I just took something that was in my head and made it into an actual on-screen thing. And immediately the channel became its own thing, almost immediately. And it became a case of, okay, that was amazing. Now let me create another video. I need to talk about fake gurus. I need to talk about the whole rabbit hole that I just went through. And so I made that video. I didn't even script it. I had it bullet pointed just because I knew exactly what I wanted to talk about in that video. And I remember doing like all the research for it was just going through hours and hours of these webinars, finding particular clips so I can string it together in the video itself. And I made that video. And when it started, and by the way, like all of these videos, they would get maybe a couple hundred views, nothing crazy, never blew up. Same with the fake guru video. And I saw that, and little did I know that was the video that would end up blowing up the channel initially. And I was like, this is amazing, next video. And as I continued making these videos, you know, I mean, I have like 8 on the channel so far. And as I was making these videos, my video editing skills started improving a lot more. And then I got an estate agency job around the time when I had made the fake guru video, and I hated it. It wasn't even like I enjoyed working with the people there. It was just I got burnt out real quick because I was doing 3 things. I was doing this financial learning platform, I was doing YouTube, and I was doing the estate agency, which as an estate agent, the hours are kind of, you know, it's really big, like chunky hours of your day. And I got super burnt out. And then I eventually quit 2 weeks in, which made me feel pretty crappy because I'd spent a month just applying for estate agency jobs. 2 weeks in, I left. And then coronavirus hit. And then lockdown happened, and I was like, well, now I've got no other choice but to just go all in on these videos. And after lockdown, I did the data broker video. I did then the self-help video, which in my head I was like, I really want to talk about the self-help industry, which I'm sure we'll maybe cover a bit more about later on. Then I made the money video because I was like, dude, I need to talk about everything that I learned from MJ's works and create that into a video because it was an actual equation to money and understanding wealth and understanding entrepreneurship. So I made that video, which is now my most popular video on the channel. After these 7 videos were made, there was a day that I woke up, and this was in the middle of producing the next video. And I looked at my phone, I went through my morning routine, and I looked at it, and normally I get about like 0 to 10 views per hour. Then suddenly it was like 15 to 25. And I was like, whoa, okay, something has happened here. Like someone has posted it somewhere or something. So I went and checked where these views were coming from. And it was coming from the suggested views, which meant essentially when I was looking at my phone, I was like, dude, no way. The algorithm has actually picked up one of my videos. And it was the fake guru video that was getting this influx of viewers. And it progressed. Like it went, the next day it went from this like 25 views, it went to 50 viewers. The next day after that, it went to 100 viewers an hour. It went to 150. It went to 500, 1,000, 2,500. At the peak of all of this, when it was like at 4,000 to 7,000 an hour, I was getting about 10,000 subscribers a day, which is ridiculous. Like absolutely insane. And there was a period of 4 days that, and every one of my friends knows about this because I told them what had happened, and it was a period of 4 days where my heart was non-stop beating. It was like the feeling I get when I'm about to go on stage to do a performance, and there's a mixture of dread, excitement, fear, all of it mixed in one. It was like that, but for 4 days straight, and I couldn't.
Jeez.
Yeah, no, it was bad. It wasn't even a good thing. It was I couldn't eat properly. I couldn't sleep properly.
Why? What was going through your mind? What were you thinking?
Because, yeah, literally, it was in these moments where I was realizing the kind of long-term dreams that I've had and what I want to do with my life, I guess. For example, one big thing for me is I'd love to be semi-retired by 30. It just means that I'm in a financial position where I don't have to ever work for money ever again. I can do whatever I want. I also would love to travel around the world. I'm very like family centric. I'd love to kind of be in a position where I can focus entirely on family, not have to worry about working. All of that whole goal and that whole vision, I realized genuinely that this is it. I think I've just found the path that's going to get me there. And that realization to me, and at this age of like 20, where I'm like only just starting things, having it happen that quickly was like all of these things just mixed into one. And you can imagine, like, my phone was blowing up, Instagram's blowing up, the YouTube channel was blowing up, all these comments are appearing. All of this stimulus is just so my brain was going crazy, and I had to remember that I had to take these jogs in like the local park just to like release energy because I could not like sit straight. I couldn't think like properly. It was just ridiculous. 4 days this happened. Eventually it kind of settled down and I became more focused because I still had a video that I was trying to make, right? So yeah, I settled down and I just got on to really then focusing on this next video and then making that. But that is essentially the journey. I know that was a really long winded way of getting around to answering your question.
But it's great because I love how you went in depth there and really, got deep into it, because that's kind of where we can go in a million different directions from here, man. Because I think from the content creation perspective, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, how it's crazy within those 4 days, but you didn't let it get to you. You weren't luckily it kind of I wouldn't say plateaued, but you're kind of either used to the upswing or you kind of used to that.
Yeah.
And luckily it's through notifications. You can turn off notifications. I can only imagine how crazy this would be if you're fucking One Direction, you're 16 years old, and you can't go anywhere. I was just talking to my girlfriend about it, and that's kind of what you described. It's this hitting that peak. It's a really wild journey, right? Your heart's pounding, crazier than riding any kind of ride, and you're on the YouTube algorithm ride. And I think what's really, really interesting about that is you had two choices here. You could have just gone all in on your WordPress site and tried to just make your thing and try to just make your online learning platform. Or you're hey, let's try to put this on YouTube. And then there's already billions of people on YouTube and you're able to kind of hitch a ride on that, You're almost riding the waves of the universe, because it seems like the universe was really just funneling you into this, And then you started riding the waves of the YouTube algorithm, So it really just felt in that time, it kind of seems for me from the outside even, it really just seems like a perfect synchronicity. It just seems I don't know how spiritual you are, mixing the spiritual with the business, but it's there's something there, there has to be.
I was going to say, when I hit 10K subscribers, when things were getting starting to get really crazy, I had a good friend of mine call me, and he said something that was really, really true. Or it just struck me, and I had a moment of actually just recounting events that led up to this point, and kind of why the story that I just up to this point was so important. He said, you know what? It's a good thing that you didn't get into drama school, because I had been auditioning for drama school during my acting stuff, and I got rejected 2 years in a row, very devastated by it. But he said, it's a good thing that you didn't get into it. And in that moment, I paused, and it wasn't just that. I realized there were so many events that were seemingly, I thought, were insignificant, or they were failures that actually helped me to get to this position right now. Getting rejected from drama school, losing my passion for acting, having that trip in Portugal where I lost my money and started, had a desire to start making money, going down the fake guru rabbit hole, because after all, it was the fake guru video. If I hadn't gone down the rabbit hole, I wouldn't have been able to make that video that blew up the channel. Starting my the financial learning platform that eventually led me to creating the YouTube channel. All these seemingly unrelated events or failures brought me to where the channel is right now. And when my friend said that over the phone, I had that little moment of just things flashing, flashing in my head, and this realization of, damn, it's crazy how things will play out, and you just don't know how it's going to play out. The only thing I can say is that to my benefit was that I just went and experienced a lot of things in a very small amount of time. You can imagine going from trying to be an actor to going from trying to be an entrepreneur, starting a business whilst also having 3 different jobs and starting a financial learning platform, starting a YouTube channel. I did this all in the space of about a year and a bit. This all happened. And all these experiences really helped me kind of, I guess, strike gold with something that kind of worked with all my skills that I developed over this period of time. And again, as I said, the video editing was just the final click, and YouTube was the sort of the sowing, I guess, the grounds in which those seeds could be sowed. And it allowed me to create the channel and what I have right now, which is, without, no understatement, it literally changed my life.
That is amazing. In what kind of sense? Financially, I don't know how open you are to speaking about it, but at that number of views, that number of subscribers, has YouTube, has the monetization actually worked out? So you don't have to worry about money now?
Yeah. Partly this is the reason why my heart was going crazy, because I'm totally open to talk about numbers as well. I don't mind. I think the reason I like people like Graham Stephen on YouTube, for example, is he's very open with his numbers and figures. So yeah, part of the reason why my heart was going crazy as well is because I started getting the money coming in from monetization. And it was in my first month, more money than I'd ever made in my entire life. In 1 month, it was about 11K. And then the month after that, last month, it was 24K. And this month, I'm currently at almost 7K at the moment. That is insane, absolutely insane. I had never, this kind of money never ever earned in my life before, ever. So that I guess goes in ties with how I was, thinking about my goals of reaching that, semi-retired by 30. Not only that, but now potentially hitting that even way, earlier than that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, congrats. Like, that's huge. And I mean, like, I mean, it's really important not to rest on your laurels, which it seems like you're not. It's like, this is almost like your standard now. You have that amount of money coming in. It's not like, hey, I could just write off my channel now. I don't have to make anything. You're like, you're immediately, no. You're like, what can I do next? What's next? What's next?
So 100%.
Exactly, man.
There's a lot more I have planned for the channel. Yeah, I mean, I guess what I want to do with the channel is, first of all, every piece of video, I'm never going to disregard what got me here in the first place, which is having very high quality content. That's always going to be the focus of my channel and my videos. And essentially what I want to do with the channel is create almost, give it that reputation of almost being the Netflix of YouTube. And having these documentary style videos that are very, very well, highly produced, extremely entertaining, but also very informative and very educational at the same time. Combining all of these things together, I want, and with that Netflix style of quality and just that storytelling that comes with it, that's what I want the main channel to be. And I have other ways of kind of then building out other sort of businesses that can run alongside the channel. One problem that I noticed, and again, emphasizing on the word problem, always being problem focused, is I noticed that when I was doing video editing, one big thing is that there are these like transition packs, sound effects, animation presets, and all of this stuff that you kind of buy from different companies as individual products. And they're like little packs for like transitions that you can drag and drop into, somewhat drag and drop into your software. But they're all individual packs that you have to buy one by one. And I thought, dude, I would literally pay for just a service that would give me all of this stuff and just have it all on a database, on like a massive list, like a music library. And I was like, well, there you go. If you're complaining about something, then go in and make a business idea. Now, I haven't done enough research into like looking at the competition and stuff, but I know that with the channel, if it grows to, and it continues to grow as it is, very easy to get that off on its feet. And so I'm very excited about doing that. It's a very late term thing. I'm also looking to kind of develop some form of video editing course or something like that. It's been very heavily requested in the comments on my videos, and that's a very big example of the market is telling you something here. So I'm looking to work on that as well. In the short term, I'm building out my Patreon account. I'm doing a lot more behind the scenes work on there because I want the Patreon. Whilst ad revenue is amazing right now, but it's also that thing of like, you never know, like the next month you may earn much less. A video might get demonetized, so whatever it may be. Patreon is much more consistent. So I'm working a lot more on building it out in the short term. And then there's also a second channel idea that I have planned when I kind of begin to systemize and build out a team for the main channel. Ideally, we'd have like an actual kind of studio where we have writers, where we have people that help with the researching, and eventually it'll be a whole team working on these videos, kind of like the channel Kurzgesagt, I think you pronounce it. They do these really like animated videos. You've probably seen them. They're really well animated videos of just like scientific. They're like a whole team of people working on it. But it would be amazing to have a main channel of that caliber and have the reputation of being like the Netflix of YouTube. There's still a lot more with like, in terms of my video like content, there's constantly, I'm going to be improving, and there's still a lot more to go until I get to that point. But yeah, those are kind of like the general ideas of where I see things going.
That's awesome. And speaking of Netflix, have you ever thought about using some of these as sort of a launch pad or like a pilot to sell to Netflix, and like having a longer form series, sort of like the Explain series, and put that on Netflix rather than YouTube?
You see, I'm never like, I would never say no, and it would be amazing to do that. The reason why I've almost got this kind of hesitation with it is more to do with the fact that and I remember seeing an interview of Logan Paul, actually, where he talks about this, and someone asked him in regards to like, why don't you go to Hollywood? Like a lot of your YouTube friends are doing that. And he said, paraphrasing here, but he'd be like, it would be stupid to do that because YouTube has everything. It's got my brand. I have full control over the content. Everything is under my name. I was like, yeah, like that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And YouTube is really, it's the biggest competition to Netflix as well. Like YouTube is and I think Logan Paul even said it, I think he was like, YouTube is the next Hollywood. I mean, you're seeing big actors, big names come to YouTube now. And I still think YouTube is in its very early stages. I don't think we've seen even the half of how big this thing can get. Like if you go to any kid, like I genuinely believe that if you go to any kid now, they're not on Netflix, they're on YouTube. They're not watching the news. They're not like, you know what I mean? They're on YouTube.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that, man. Like I don't know how it's like over there in the UK for you, man, but like, fuck, man, in Canada, I'm sure it's the same. It's the news, right? So I think there needs to be alternative forms of the news, and the best way to get it is through YouTube and Twitter, right? Yeah. And I think that's what it is. Like, I think you're doing a really good job of kind of like, it's not breaking news. Maybe you'll go to Twitter for your breaking news, but like for some of the stuff going on in the world. But what I like about it is the fact that it's not news. Mm-hmm. It's like you're never, and it's things you won't learn from like regular societies, what other people want to tell you. I mean, I will be the first to admit that I've gone through conspiracy theory rabbit holes on YouTube, right? Like, how many times have you been linked to this, to that?
Of course.
And you need to, right? And sometimes it's a little bit nutty, but sometimes you're like, maybe they're actually onto something.
Yeah. No, 100%.
I totally agree, man. The internet is amazing for that, and YouTube definitely is that. So I hope it continues. I hope it keeps growing, and I hope it just keeps fostering the innovation and the creativity, because you can get anything. That's the other cool thing about it, is like the recommendations, right? You can be searching anything and maybe your video will come up, and that's how you kind of grow the channel, and people will learn about you. Then they can follow you. I also agree that you should be building out your own platform. So whether it's Patreon or whatever it is that you want to do, I totally agree. It's like almost like a backup plan. Like YouTube is like the main thing. At least it's great for marketing, if anything. And then you can put on other videos on a different platform, whether you host it on WordPress or whatever the web builder is, right? But having your own platform, I totally agree. So that's really cool. Yeah.
And I think usually for all the flack that they get from people, I think they've done an incredible job. Like their algorithm is, there's nothing that's this intricate on any social media platform that has allowed, like, look at me as an example, right? Like from someone that had hundreds of viewers, like these subscribers, 99.9% of them didn't know you. You yourself just didn't know who I was until the algorithm started pushing it out. Yeah. And really the algorithm, I think, does do a great job of finding content that is good quality that people do want to watch. That's why it exists. It's meant to keep people on the channel, on the site, but it's also enabled people who are really creative, people who have got really great like content, to build a whole career from that. That's so incredible, and I'm very blessed. Like I'm not disillusioned to the fact that I'm very blessed to be in a position where I've had this in my life, something like this, or just the internet as a whole. That enabled me to do what essentially I like to phrase it this way, because it's really cool to phrase it this way, which is monetize my imagination.
I love that.
And that's amazing. And I'm very blessed to have been in this position. And I think YouTube has done an incredible job, despite, any kind of flack that they do sometimes get. I think they've still done an amazing job at kind of bringing out people who do have amazing content and just pushing their stuff to people, and letting them create a full-time career from it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing I actually wanted to bring up is, I just like that idea of like monetizing your imagination. What I had noticed is in your videos, what I love about it is this educational nonfiction content. You're talking about real shit, but then you back it up with fictional video clips, which I fucking love, because it's awesome. Like you're showing like Scarface, Inception, like all these awesome movies. I think that's another thing that totally drew me in too, because I'm definitely a film nut. Like I absolutely love film. I run a VR film company, and our idea is literally exactly what you're saying, man. Monetizing imagination. It's like, how do you now step inside some of these movies? So we can talk about that. I'd love to hear your ideas on some of this. But dude, I love how you added those film, and what was the idea for that? And also, I know with like audio specifically, you get demonetized and like there's copyright claims. Have you had copyright claims using like the video clips?
No, not for video clips. They're a bit more, because of fair use laws. It's a bit more easier as long as you're not, as long as there's some kind of alteration of the actual context and making it into a different. It's not just a re-upload of a scene. You're good.
Okay, so if that's totally legal, then adding to your idea of that sort of repository of transitions and audio packs, what about fair use clips from film? Like that's because the way that you're able to get this video together, the way that you had the cinema quality, was because you took clips from fucking cinema, dude. I'm not saying that you stole shit.
No,
whatever. You put it together. You literally put it together, but you're able to source this thing like, hey, I need like a heist scene. Go to like, you just search heist and then Inception pops up, you know, like I think that would be such an innovation in like YouTube and even like Netflix. Like think about all these documentaries that go on Netflix. They need to find this content. And if you can, you know, find stuff that's both nonfiction and fiction, I think that would totally blow up. Because again, you're right, it's fair use. I realize if it's under 5 seconds too or something like that, you can call it fair use.
Yeah, I don't even think it's time limited either. Okay. I don't know if there is time limit on it. It's a pretty interesting. Yeah, it's pretty. I've seen a couple of videos on it, but in terms of it, yeah. But I mean, on the case of like using movie clips, initially I used it as because I was handicapped with my actual video editing skills, in the sense that I wasn't as advanced. And I think if you like, for example, my recent video, the Title 1 video, became much less like, there were far less movie clips and it became very much more animated. And I steered much more towards the Netflix style of editing. And I think what's going to happen with my channel is I actually don't want to rely on movie clips in the future. Right. And I want it to have its own kind of style. And initially I used video editing. As I said, I used these movie clips because I wasn't as advanced with animation or any of that stuff. So I had to use it as almost a handicap, but it has its advantages in the sense that, you know, it's people can recognize it. So it builds this instant familiarity. It's like, oh, I recognize that scene, as opposed to like a random stock footage with, you know, someone that looks very like a basic scene.
Totally.
And there's also like action and excitement. Then the cinematography is already in place because it is a movie. So those things were definitely to my advantage. And thankfully, because of fair use laws, I'm able to use those clips. But as the videos do progress, they will turn much more into, you know, animation style, Netflix style stuff, where it's less movie clips, more real clips, more animation. But still, you know, always keeping up with the storytelling aspect of it, and always creating this. I think, I mean, since we're talking about like fiction and inside nonfiction, what I love to do is really create storytelling in my videos. Even in like the Untold Truth About Money video, where there's not really a story, like it's just talking about economics really, but I wanted to build a story from that, and the character in that story was the audience, and taking them down a particular journey and a particular narrative that I wanted to take them down. And that's what I try and do now with every single video, even if it doesn't seem like there could be a story made from it. Some are a little more obvious than others, but I will always use storytelling because I think at the end of the day, like everyone loves stories, right?
It's hardwired into our human brains. Smart. I mean, it makes sense, and that's how you can follow it. Otherwise, it kind of, I mean, that's why I also do like stuff like this podcast, where it's almost the opposite of storytelling, although you can tell stories within it, but we can just go on crazy different branches, right? Which is what I love about speaking. But then I could have formed this where, like, you know, I interview, I talk to you, and then I chop it up and make a story. I could do that. And that's totally logical. And I love how you do it with video. And it makes sense that you would use like film clips. I don't think you should stop, to be honest, man, because like it gives it that extra bit of storytelling and a little bit of that edge, a little bit more of that, like, you know, like this is a story. And then, like you said, the instant familiarity of like seeing characters and actors that, you know, I don't think that it's totally bad to like use it at all. In fact, I think it's amazing. I think that's kind of like, you also have to look back and be like, okay, what is the uniqueness of these videos? And for me, it's like, I haven't really seen that. I haven't seen a lot of people use those clips in such a way that you did, in a really, really, like, not even just creative way, but like something that also makes logical sense. Like, you're looking, what you're talking about plays out on screen, but then it's something from, you know, again, imagination, from people who have created completely imaginary scenarios in their head, stuff that would not happen in reality. And that's, I love that. You almost need to take that, because, you know, I mean, they do say truth is stranger than fiction, but sometimes you need to take that fiction to make the truth a little bit more tangible, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I'm definitely going to see how it plays out. There is actually another channel, a guy called Jake Tran, who does these movie clips. He solely does movie clips on his, and he's in the entrepreneurship niche. And I'd seen his stuff before I even started the channel, and it was partially an inspiration for me, because I was like, okay, cool, I can use this kind of format to start talking about these stories and creating these highly produced videos. But I guess it's the way I look at it in like a more like vision wise, I would love to have videos on the same type of editing as a guy called Lamino, for example. If you've ever heard of Lamino, he is like an incredible like YouTuber that does these really like genuinely very high like very well produced videos on YouTube. It just sucks because I don't know if he has a team or anything, so he takes a really long while to create videos. But to be on like that level, or just like the level of, like, for example, I mean, I know this is kind of not a great example, but like Tiger King on Netflix. Even though that's like, you know, people actually had like, they had a crew that were filming stuff, but there's this cool stuff when the editing goes to like pictures and goes to news clippings. That style of editing is so fun. And Netflix does this a lot with their documentaries. That kind of thing is what I really want to develop, but we'll see. I mean, it's a slow transition that I'm experimenting with. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean, because it does feel like, I'm losing that element of bringing in familiarity.
It's just an ingredient, right? Like I think, again, I just read this. This is why this is going in my mind. I just read this article. I'll send it to you right after this, and I'll post in the links. It's called, I think it's called The Cook and the Chef, What Makes Elon Musk Different. I know that you want to make a video on Elon Musk. Have you read Wait But Why? Have you heard of Wait But Why?
That sounds really familiar.
So this guy, yeah, look it up. So Wait But Why, Tim Urban, he has this blog where he kind of does the same thing that you do with videos, but for blogs, where he only puts out maybe one blog a month or something like that. And they're the length of fucking books, man. These blog posts are basically like books. So it's like the equivalent of taking like, you know, YouTube video, making it film. He does it for blogs. And he did a whole series on Elon Musk. And he talks about the beginning of him talking to Elon Musk. Then he talks about his companies with SpaceX and Tesla, and I think he created one with Neuralink. But then there's an extra. If you see it, you'll see all the blogs linked to it. And then the very last the very last blog post is literally called The Cook and the Chef, What Makes Elon Musk Different. And he talks about how you can also be different. So I think, like, if you're planning on making this video, man, you have to have some kind of value proposition of, like, you like Elon Musk, here's how you can also be like him. And I think the blog post did a great job at doing that. But then to bring it all together, it's like this idea of the cook and the chef, where, like, I brought this up before, man, like right now you're sort of like the cook because you couldn't edit. So you're like, hey, I'm going to take like these awesomely produced videos and these video clips that are like high art. I'm going to put them all together. But then now you want to become the chef. You're like, fuck that. I want to film my own shit. I want to make it from the very beginning, like the actual imagination, not just take bits and pieces from everyone else and take these ingredients, then make your salad. You want to actually grow your own fucking tomatoes and lettuce and stuff, right? So I think that's also really cool. And that's definitely takes it to the next level, you know, when you become the chef rather than the cook. But yes, dude, if you're doing an Elon Musk video, dive into these. It is amazing. Those fucking blog posts are incredible.
Thank you, man. I'm seeing it now. Yeah, I'm literally seeing it now. Yeah, no, this looks amazing. I'm going to definitely use this as a resource, because I'm going to be doing a full Elon kind of documentary soon. I think it'll be in 2 videos time. It's been very highly requested on my channel and my pages. So yeah, thank you, man.
Of course, man. He's like a living icon. It's dope. So actually, okay, this is a really good time for me to bring this up then. So I just saw on Instagram you posted like sort of your process of how you make the videos, and now you're in research stage for some of these videos. And you just said, hey, I want to use this as a resource. So I want to know, man, when you're in your research phase, how do you save all these stuff? Because you're watching videos, you're watching news clips, you're going through these webinars.
Yeah.
How do you save it all, and how do you use that for the video, and how do you write your notes and everything? I want to know that process, dude.
Yeah, of course. So obviously this process has developed over time. I mean, when I started, there was no research. It was just, let me talk about what I know. There was like a very little bit, and I just bullet point it. Now, the way it works is when I start with research, I go through a kind of mind splatter phase. That's what I call it. It's essentially where I get all these resources. So I will, for example, in this new video, it's about MLMs. So I will go search on YouTube for MLMs. I'll go search on Reddit for MLMs. I'll go find articles on MLMs. I'll go through all these various MLM resources, and I'll create a Word document literally with a dump of all these resources and the links to them with just a title of what they are. And I'll categorize them as articles, YouTube videos, Reddit posts, stories, etc., etc.
What app do you use for all that?
This is just Word, like literally on Word doc.
Word doc?
Yeah, literally just a Word document. I'm
gonna suggest look up. There's two apps. Look up Notion and look up Roam Research. I think maybe for what you're doing, Roam, ROAM, might work a little bit better because you can but Notion is my favorite. I use it for fucking literally everything. I've
heard a lot about Notion.
Notion, man, because you can create pages, you can link each pages. I feel like you would benefit a lot from that. So either that or Rome. I know a lot of people are really into Rome right now. It has a cult following and a lot of people are using it. And I haven't tried it. I don't really know the hype yet, but people are saying it's something that you can't really describe until you start using it, the way you can like link different articles and different pages. So maybe for your research purposes, it might make more sense than Notion, but Notion is a close second. If not, one of those two would be awesome. And I'm really interested in these like actual tools of like how you can actually put these things together and supercharge your work. It's like we can use these tools. As Steve Jobs said, the computers are like a bicycle for your mind. It's like, yeah, you can write down all this shit, but it would take so long. What if you had these supercharged tools? How much better could your work be? Obviously not to like put too much focus on the tools and on the process, but I'm really interested in that. So go on. You go through the mind splatter. You go through the mind splatter phase. And I always do this shit. I always be like, hey, have you tried this? Because maybe you haven't. And I want you to learn something out of this just as much as anyone listening.
Oh, yeah. No, I really thank you. I was really wanting to use Notion as well. So I guess it's just a kick in the arse to get actually done, because everyone's been talking about it. So yeah, thank you. But yeah, in the mind splatter phase, I have all these resources written down. Then I start writing questions that I'm interested in getting answered. So it would be something, for example, the MLM video. It's going to be, how did it all start? What's the history behind MLMs? Why do people get into them in the first place? Then I want to, I sort of go into question of what differentiates pyramid scheme, like a legal pyramid scheme from an illegal pyramid scheme. Then I also even go into like cults, because I know about, MLMs have that cult like reputation around them. So I, write down the question of what makes a cult, what are the features of a cult. I get all these questions out, and then as I go through all these research sources and just start like pretty much diving right into it and immersing myself in all of this stuff, I will first pay attention to the questions that I've asked and look at stuff that answers those questions, but also start to point out different themes that start appearing and different extra stuff to look into that keeps on like patterns is really what I'm looking for. And as I start to see these themes recurring, and as I start answering the questions, and sometimes I add on even more questions that a video might give me, what begins to form from it is a narrative. I've always found like there's a very clear sense of a narrative, or at least like I can form a narrative from all the themes that are appearing, from all the questions that I've answered, and I can go, okay, now we can move on to structuring this thing, and structuring the data and the research information I've gotten into a stage of like, okay, the video is going to start off like this, where we're going to explore these particular themes that I've found in the video, and also answering these questions. And the kind of narrative will be, okay, the audience is going to be my character in this. We're first going to take them through the pitch of an MLM. Then we're going to take them through what it's like working inside an MLM, and then the kind of unearthing it all and revealing what's going on, how much money people are really making, etc., etc., and it builds it to its own story. But yeah, that's kind of skipped ahead there into beyond the research phase, but that is pretty much where the research phase goes. Then the structuring it, then I've got this little structure to what I want to do. Then I go into writing. So it's literally, I'll spend maybe, depending on how long the video I can tell is going to be, how much research has gone into it. It can be like from 1 to 4, 5 days of just writing the script for it. And that's all about, really digging into the story that I'm telling, but also getting in some of the facts that I've gone in, making it educational, making it entertaining, getting a clear idea of what the themes are that the video explores, and having that in the script. Once the script is done, and I may go over like a few drafts of it, then it's time to film, which is pretty self-explanatory. I just get out the camera, although I really need a new backdrop for my videos, because right now I just do them in my bedroom. So I'm kind of working on...
Yeah, I've noticed that. Have you seen anyone like comment on that?
Yeah, there's been a few. I think, nothing crazy. They've just been like, hey, dude, you should look into investing in like a better backdrop or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, man, I know. Like, if it was up to me, the channel would blow up way too quick for me to keep up with this. So yeah, no, I'm definitely.
But it's good. It's like people are expecting even more. It's awesome. That's a good thing to hear. Like, you're like, yeah, and stuff. Obviously, you're like, but I have to start somewhere. So that's what I really love about the videos and what you're doing. It's like you have to start somewhere, and you could have just done voiceover, and you could have done just audio, but you chose to put yourself in the videos. Yeah, and again, that brings in the acting part of it. That brings in the personality, because it's under your channel, your name. We're getting to know you. You're the one telling. You're the storyteller, which is what I love. And it doesn't really matter where the fuck you are. I mean, you could go outside in like I don't know, in the forest or something and make it super creepy when you talk about cults. I don't know. Like when you go into each thing, you can go to different locations. Why be in a studio? Why not go to these different locations?
Interesting.
You know?
Interesting.
Did you ever watch, I don't know if you've seen, it was on Netflix. It was called How We Got to Now.
No, I didn't.
I can't remember the guy's name. Okay, look it up. How We Got to Now series. Man, it's so fucking good. Like the way I can't remember the guy's name now. If you look it up on Google there, I don't have my my thing open there. But it's awesome how he actually travels around the world, and the team will actually record him against the backdrop of whatever he's talking about. Like if he's talking about like, you know, islands or whatever, he actually goes there. If he's talking about pools, he's like at a pool, you know? And this is the other thing that's blowing my mind. Have you heard of virtual production?
No, I haven't.
Holy shit, dude. Look up Unreal Engine virtual production. It's the idea that you can have a green screen studio, so you don't have to physically travel anywhere. Uh-huh. And now what you can do is in real time, you can change that backdrop into whatever you want it to be. Like think of any 3D modeling software. People can literally create in a video game engine, Unreal Engine, and they can literally create an entirely new scenario for you.
Wow.
And I'm really, really interested in that right now. That's kind of what I've been delving into during quarantine. So with this Unreal Engine, it's essentially using a video game engine to create these realistic 3D worlds. And then now you can tap in a camera into that scene. So if you're up against a green screen, you could be put into these locations.
Wow. I'm looking at this now, yeah.
It's wild. It's wild. So like, it's almost like you don't even need to travel around now. It's like you just need the artist. I can see your brain turning on this, but it totally just blew my mind when I saw it. Yeah, it's like that's what the studio should be. Like these, you know, we're talking about work at home and like virtualizing stuff. Obviously, shoot on set whenever you can, but I think like this is also a really cool production method.
Yeah, damn, that is crazy. Yeah, man, it's so exciting, man. It's so exciting. There's so many things going on. Yeah, this is amazing. How we got to know if I'm just writing this stuff down on real virtual production.
Yeah, How We Got to Now is a really cool, just like again, case study of like how they set it up, and it's all factual stuff. They're actually talking about like how did glass come to be? How did time? He has one about how did time come about? Like time is a human invention, which is fucked up to me. Like, but like because we don't think about it normally, but we're like, yeah, wait, time doesn't exist for any other animal on this planet except for humans. What the fuck?
So interesting. Do you have any like favorite documentaries on Netflix or anything like that?
Not that I can remember right now. Like the last couple things that really struck my chord, so to speak, was actually Tiger King.
It was such a good documentary.
It really was, right? It was awesome. And then obviously the Vox explained videos, amazing. Those are incredible. Highly produced, high quality, really good stuff.
Have you seen Fire Festival?
Yes, the Fire Doc was awesome too. Yeah, it's the same guys that did Tiger King, right?
Yes, yeah. These guys do really good. They do a really good job. Like their documentary, they know how to pick a really intriguing subject, and that's kind of what I wanted to do with my videos as well. As it progresses, is picking these really, just this intrigue, like almost surreal, like stranger than like real life, like non-fiction that's stranger than fiction. Type of stuff,
100%.
Which was what Tiger King really was. That was such an insane, and the whole Fire Festival. I've literally rewatched that documentary so many times because it's just like there's something so satisfying that you know you're about to watch like a whole roller coaster just about to explode. And there's just something about that documentary that just really builds that narrative. Again, it's narrative storytelling that just really captivates you.
And it's America, man. All this shit. I think a lot of your videos, it's just America. It's everyone just deconstructing America while America falls apart.
Oh my God. That is, yeah. So
I feel way too close to the border right now to be saying this, but someone has to say it. That place is a shit show. So like, I mean, that's another thing. On Netflix, there is a History 101. I haven't delved into it just yet. I've watched a couple episodes. History 101, and then there's another one like I think it's like the history of the United States. So it's a lot of these things. I think it's like mostly is the United States. It seems like MLMs probably, I don't know. I didn't do the research, but it seems like that's an American thing to do. The Fake Gurus is really American. I haven't seen, or I haven't at least gotten ads from anyone.
It's big in another. Yeah, I've had a lot of people reach out to me. India, it affects a lot. MLMs as well. MLMs are like literally, I think they have a lot of their companies are based in like for example, like things like Herbalife, Amway, they expand to all these other countries, because obviously if you in a pyramid scheme sense that you have to expand to other markets, otherwise the whole thing collapses. But there's a lot of, and the fake guru stuff is very prominent in other countries. It's literally copy and paste like a Tai Lopez ad, but they do speak in German. So
yeah, we're forgetting they are getting those ads in Germany. Like he's putting it all around the world, but it's crazy how these fuckers start. It's so weird, man. So like I do want to get back to the fake guru thing, because that's the one thing that really fascinates me right now. MLM as well, because that's sort of like a branch of that. But I feel like you're just touching on something deeper. And I think one of the reasons why it resonates with so many people, myself included, it's just like you're calling out people's bullshit. You're just being real. Like, you're being honest. You're being truthful, where everyone else is fucking fake. They're telling lies to try to make money, anything to make money. And like we talked about it. Yes. Consulting.com, Sam Ovens, he does teach some good stuff. But even if you look at his Glassdoor reviews from like employees and stuff, they talk about greed. It's all about greed. Like they only care about money. Like they will do whatever it takes to extract people's credit card numbers over the phone. And then that's what they're teaching all of their students. And then it's a fucking wave. It's just like exponentially exploding of more people with the exact same mindset. That's just like so toxic.
Yeah, what entrepreneurship is, and what, like, and I'm saying this as someone who came in during this, like, I don't know how to describe it, this new age entrepreneurship of like where it's kind of, we're in the influencer age of, it's been this romanticized concept now of it's about, you know, working on the beach, and it's about having that financial freedom and making money while you sleep, these buzzwords and buzz phrases, because that's how I was introduced to it. It is very toxic.
Right, but that's business versus entrepreneurship. We were just talking about like Elon Musk. Like there's something real and tangible. Yes, he has that business mind, but there's something difference between like the business person and an entrepreneur. Like what do you think it is that's like different? Like these fake gurus that are like businessmen, yeah, they're making money, but they're not an entrepreneur. What is that distinction?
It's the idea of what value they're actually bringing to the market. That's the big thing here, because you can make a lot of money from bringing in a false value, like MJ calls it, like, you know, it's this, the perceived value doesn't match the actual value, and that's, I guess, what you call a scam if those two things are skewed way too in the favor of perceived value and the actual value is very low. And I think a lot of these, you know, gurus, whilst the courses, and again, I have nothing wrong with courses, it's not to do with that, it's to do with how it's marketed, is they'll skew the value, the perceived value of these courses to such a degree where they can charge these extremely high prices. But then when you hop in the course and it's like the actual value is, you could probably have bought this for like 100 quid, 200 quid, if even that. And like, and to call it a scam is too harsh of a criticism, because I guess it's not the best way of phrasing it.
I know exactly what you mean. It's not exactly a scam, because they are giving you something. It'd be a scam if they just took your money and then just vanished, and then that URL fucking redirected or something. Yeah. But you're right. It's the perceived value. It's like, is it really worth $5,000 for this thing? Is it really?
And I think the point, at least what MJ DeMarco's books kind of laid into me, was the idea that, you know, entrepreneurship is about solving an actual problem in the market, or just actually providing the actual value. Right,
because those are two different distinctions, right? Because if you're YouTube, you're getting paid for your value. Maybe you are solving a problem. People maybe have the problem like, oh, should I pay for this like course? They watch your video like, fuck no, I shouldn't. Yeah. So you are solving a problem for them, and maybe it's like education, but I think you're right. It's like that value. Like you have to give something almost as like 10 times more, or at least feel like you're giving something 10 times more than the actual money you're taking in, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
And there's this other, I mean, this is a whole other subject you can talk about in terms of like marketing and the actual quality of a product. So, and MJ goes a lot into that. I mean, I feel like I'm saying MJ goes a lot into this all the time as well, but it's so true. It's like, you want to have a product that's good enough so that if you just like market it a bit, people they love the product so much that it's word of mouth that can literally like build up your business just like that. And there's this thing with these internet marketers. If they stop running their webinars, if they stop running their you know, their YouTube ads, dude, no one's going to be like going to their neighbors and saying, oh, like, I'm gonna, you know, you should check out Tyler's course, it was so amazing. Okay, or at least I really don't think people would. If, for example, Tai Lopez, or I mean, we don't even have to use Tai, just any of these business gurus, like the ones that are specifically making a lot of their money from, and you can even use the low-key guys that no one's really heard of, they're still doing this, on their ads are on Instagram everywhere. If they stopped advertising, no one's really going to be going to other people and being like, oh my god, look at their product, it's so good. they don't have that effect. They have to kind of reach out and grab people and pull them into that product.
Yeah, dude, that's a really good distinction too, because like the first thing that comes to my mind that's on the opposite end of that spectrum is Tesla. They've never spent a dime on advertising. It's a great product. I mean, they're selling a car. I mean, it's more than a car, but I know exactly what you're saying. They have to convince you. If they have to convince you, you have to get on a phone call and you have to be on a phone call for an hour and they have to convince you, and then you're not very sure. That's probably like a red flag number one right there.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And I think even like in experience, like anyone that's kind of they've kind of giving you a word of mouth recommendation, you immediately trust it way more.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're just much more programmed now to just not really trust advertising. There's a really good video actually by Graham. I don't know if you do you watch Graham Stephen or heard of him?
Graham Stephen?
Yeah, he's like a personal finance YouTuber. Don't worry, it's literally the video I'm talking about. He had a video which is I bought a Lamborghini for a YouTube ad. I saw this the other day. A friend of mine recommended me watch it. Very interesting experiment that he did, which is he has like a real estate course. And he ran an ad with a Lamborghini in the background. He ran a YouTube ad without the Lamborghini, and he just ran a simple Instagram story promoting the course. And what he noticed was the Lamborghini ad did less than had less sales than the one without the Lamborghini, and the Instagram story had exponentially higher sales than both of those things. And he didn't, obviously didn't pay anything for his Instagram story. Now the argument can be made like, oh, it's your Instagram story, they're warm, but he was also targeting the same audience. Like for his ads, he was targeting subscribers that were already warm to him. But it's this thing of now like we're much less programmed to like trust advertisements, and now we're very much heavy on the word of mouth. And if you can create a product or a service or something, even like with the videos, like I had so many people like sharing my videos on Instagram, sharing my videos on Facebook. The people who've come to me who have said like, oh, someone shared, like you said, there was a well, okay, that was the algorithm in your example, but yeah, I've had so many people sharing. I think it was a great example of this idea that, I'm not spending money on ads for my channel to go crazy. In a way, you can say the algorithm is like an ad, but the algorithm is focusing on finding, I guess, the products that are right to be pushing out. And a lot of these gurus, it's like they stop advertising, that's it. They're really just marketers, like they're internet marketers.
Yep, they are internet marketers. That is so true. And they just need something to sell. And the easiest thing to create from nothing is just a course on something, and then you just sell it. But I do also want to say, okay, because at the very beginning of this, I did say that my brother is like balls deep in like a few of these things, dude. He's like so sold on Dan Lok and what was the other one? It was consulting.com with Sam Ovens, I believe. He did a bunch of other ones. And my brother and I have talked about this. Again, I'm not saying anything bad about the guy. He's great. He's a fantastic marketer. That's exactly what he calls himself. He knows he's an internet marketer, but he has dreams for something much bigger. Like this is like his stepping stone to something bigger. And it's a way for him to make a lot of money real quick. Like, again, maybe if you're using some of the same tactics, maybe it's not the best way to do it. Like I personally wouldn't do it this way. And I'm sure you now knowing what you probably wouldn't do it. You wouldn't,
No.
Otherwise you're just a hypocrite. But I digress. The whole point is like my brother was quote unquote hooked and lured into the world of entrepreneurship from that Ty Lopez Here in My Garage ad on YouTube. And then from there, my brother learned about like ClickFunnels and like Russell Brunson. And then he went down this rabbit hole. So like, for all the bad rap that like some of this shady stuff gets, it does hook people into like a better mindset, because eventually if they're smart and they have a good community around them, they'll start to question whether some of these things that these gurus are talking about is legit, and then they'll go down their own rabbit hole and start learning about financing. Like my brother told me about MJ DeMarco with the Millionaire Fast Lane, and he reads all these incredible books, and like before he was doing all this, he was just selling drugs, man. Like that's, I mean, mind you, maybe he is now digitally, but whatever. You know, but yeah, that's exactly it. Like he, you need that Lamborghini to lure in a 19-year-old. Otherwise, if you're going to be like, hey, learn about finance and like giving people value, like you're 19, all you care about is yourself, and you want Lamborghinis and boobs. That's all you want, right?
Yeah.
So for all the bad rap, I love how you like the way that you framed it, because knowing what you know now, it's kind of like, there is sort of an evilness to it. Like they're building cults, like they're basically a cult leader and they're luring people in. But if you see it from the perspective, like they're like the starting point, they're the door that opens to like a better world. I like to think I'm also like a heavy optimist. So that's maybe my thought on it. What do you think?
It's a very good point. And it's almost this tough thing. Yes, it's definitely a starting point. It was my starting point as well. Like, I echo that similar story, and eventually I kind of moved away from into what entrepreneurship I think it really is. But part of me questions how many people don't transition. And like, we will never know. We'll never have an exact answer to that question. But a part of me does wonder how many people just now have become so focused on the new age entrepreneurship, which is thanks to these ads that have made them think it's about the Lamborghini, or think it's about getting the girls, or that it's about catching a new trend, or this particular business model, this just a fad, and you're just focusing on the money. And I'm interested in knowing the damage. And I'm optimistic as well. This is a pessimistic way of looking at it, and I don't like looking at it this way. But I'm also interested in knowing how many people that this has probably done a lot more harm in the long run and wasted a lot more years than they could have just picked up. Like, I think there is a way of ethically marketing this and creating something. Like, it's such a difficult topic. It's so difficult.
Yeah, totally. Here's a really good example. Look this up on your end. I'll put it in the link. Look up Mind Valley. Mind Valley by this guy. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of Mind Valley, yes.
Vishen Lakhiani.
Yes, yeah.
Again, he does, after you get deeper into it, he definitely has that cult-like following. He runs these webinars, but he doesn't do it in a weird, slimy way. He does it pretty authentically. And then when you're going through his webinars and his courses, you're like, hey, this is actually legit. I just read his book, The Buddha and the Badass. Man, I highly recommend that. I think one of the things lacking in entrepreneurship and business is this spiritual aspect of it. It's exactly what you're talking about. And I think this book actually just kind of puts into words what I've been thinking. It's kind of like exactly what we've been saying. People think it's about the Lamborghini, the money, and just like building a business for the sake of a business. But it's like, you have to look deeper. Like, what is your actual, what is your reason for being here on Earth? Like we said, the universe sort of like pushes people into a certain direction. The universe brought you onto this plane of existence for a reason. And what are you doing with that? Are you going to waste 30 years, 20 years, even 10 years just like selling random shit online? Or are you going to do something that actually pushes humanity forward? Like with these fake gurus, would the world be better or worse without them? Like, just think about it. Like, if there was no Sam Ovens, there's no Ty Lopez, 10 years down the line, or not even 10 years, a year from now, they don't exist. Does the world really matter? Like, does it really matter to the world, to the people that were in these courses? And I think, honestly, the answer is maybe it does for some people. Some people needed that. Yeah. But on what you're saying is, as a whole, what is that net value? Is it net positive or net negative? Like, we can definitely say, the cigarette and smoking industry, fucking net negative, Could you say the same thing with video games? I don't know. Like, there's these things that kind of teeter, they teeter along that line. Video games, great. They connect people through it's technically a new social media now with people playing Fortnite. But then video game addiction, is that bad? It's like, fuck, man. Like, morality. I think that's what you're really bringing into the subject, morality into business. And that is not fucking taught at all in business school. From someone who studied business at a university, man, that shit was not fucking studied. In fact, I had a professor that literally said greed is good and was yelling at us saying that. And I'm like, what, man? Dude, what the fuck?
Yeah, interesting.
It's the morality, right? It's the ethics and morality that need to be put into play. Like, is what you're doing net negative or net positive? Like, just ask that fucking question, I
100% agree. 100% agree. It's a really interesting subject. It's partly why I also, Elon's philosophy, I think, is just an entrepreneur, as a figure. He's been very much focused on how can we push humanity forward. I guess there was always this kind of plateau we've hit in the last decade, where it's just the new innovations. There has been no new innovations. It's been like the same iPhone release, the same, it's just a new social media platform. There's been like no real advancement in like as people, as humans, which is where people like Elon Musk, I guess, are really, really huge. And people like Elon are a good example of an entrepreneur that is kind of, he's focusing more on, of course, the guy's going to make a lot of money, but there's nothing wrong with that if he's providing value. And he's doing these electric cars. He's trying to get people, SpaceX's main goal, I guess, is to kind of colonize Mars, get people from Earth to Mars or in space. There's like some form of bigger picture. The only issue here is I think a lot of this stuff is sometimes people will hear this and they think that in order for them to be successful in business, is to make the next Facebook, make the next Tesla, make the next SpaceX. And I think that's really, when you're starting out, that's not how you should be viewing it. It should always come from just how can I solve a problem? Any kind of problem. The problem could literally be just like skewing the value of a particular, if a business, for example, if a company has really terrible customer support, you can replicate the entire business, but just make the customer support so much more better and you've got a business.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good way to think about it.
And I think then you can move on from there once you start raising the capital from an original business and you start doing really well there, depending on what your goals are. Because either way, in most cases, people that do well in business, they've created somewhat of a business that has produced value to society. In most cases, like there are exceptions, of course. But I think in most businesses, they've produced some kind of value. And so even if your goal isn't to be the next Elon Musk or to create the next big innovating thing that moves humanity forward, like you can still perfectly achieve, like you can get that successful business without having to do the next big thing. So yeah, I guess I'm just saying this as a preface because seeing, like, when I initially started out, one big myth that I was obsessed with was the idea of like innovating. Or just creating something wholly new to the market that no one's ever seen before, which is really tough.
There's a lot of people in the world, a lot of very smart people.
Yeah, chances of you ever coming up with an original idea, like my finance platform thing, was plenty of competition. It's just the competition I saw were they didn't have really nice sites. They looked a bit too alienating. I mean, I still think that's a good business idea. If someone's like watching this and wants to steal it, you can feel free to. It's just I never, once the channel blew up, I felt much more at home to all my other skills, and there was the market feedback of the likes and the comments, etc.
No, man, that's a really good way to think about it. Because again, I'll bring up that blog post of like the chef versus the cook. What these fake gurus are basically doing is they're creating a cookbook and telling people, read the cookbook and make the thing. Just do what I say. Don't think about it. Don't question it. Just do it. If anyone tells you to do something without questioning it, i.e. at school, wherever, you fucking run the other way, right? You're like, what the hell? If a lot of people don't, they just, oh, you're telling me what to do? Yes, I do. I will do it. Whereas when you become the chef, like you're saying, it doesn't mean that you have to create something wholly new. Like you have to look at like I kind of want to say it like the ingredients. What are the ingredients of your business? If you're running a technology business, there are certain ingredients that you're going to use there. Whereas if you're doing a real estate business, it might be different ingredients, right? But what you can do, like you said, to create a whole new business, you can take the raw ingredients of whatever business it is and then tack on really, really good customer service. That's innovating in its own way. It doesn't have to be completely new, right? You can take bits and pieces of each little business, put it together, and it's something brand new. And now you also have to look at what are the new ingredients that are coming out into the world. Well, if you're running a technology platform, I'm sorry, James, but fucking WordPress is a piece of shit. And you probably know that by using it.
Yeah.
So then someone came up with a business. And that one is called Webflow. That's what I use for everything. And this is not sponsored. I wish I could put a sponsored plug. This would have been the best sponsored plug. Webflow, please pay me for this. This would have been amazing.
Webflow. Okay, I'm seeing this. I think I've heard of Webflow. Is it a similar deal to WordPress, or how does this work?
It's amazing. I fucking love it so much. And it's my platform of choice for anything web related. So I do a lot of dabbling with like web platforms and stuff sort of on the side. So anytime I have an idea, I can just go into Webflow and start building it out visually. And like whatever I have in my imagination, I can kind of just build it out. The next revolution is going to be in something called no code. And man, I would love for you to do a video on no code. That would be so cool to really explain no code, dude. It's like this, man, it's this whole if you want to catch a wave, fucking no code right now, dude. Webflow is paving the way. Zapier, Zed, Apier, Integromat, this company called Bubble. There's all these software companies that are sort of building what they call the scaffolding or the pipeline for building technology startups. And bringing this into the Millionaire Fast Lane, since you've read it, I know that you know it deeply. It's like what MJ is talking about is building out these platforms and building out, technology companies that you can scale really quickly. I mean, you can do the same thing with YouTube, but it's like the idea of the fast lane. And now I think what will happen is there's going to be a whole new wave of people creating new types of platforms using these services. So it's like taking the raw ingredients. For me, it could be in, Webflow for the front end, Zapier to connect it all, and then this thing called Airtable for the back end, which is kind of just like Excel spreadsheets. It's like kind of a database. And you take these raw ingredients, and then being the chef, like, hey, I want to create this awesome thing, and I'm going to pull this out of my asshole right now. It's a marketplace to find YouTubers who, I don't know, YouTubers who will help you make your video. They'll help you script write. I don't care.
Yeah.
You could recreate OnlyFans and people can pay you to see your nipples. I don't care. I literally don't care what it is. But now there's these tools that you can do it so easily. You don't need to know how to code. You don't have to kill yourself to learn how to code, because a lot of people, they just are not coders, and you could spend 5 years learning it and then build your thing. Or you can like start off and just kind of use web skills, kind of like using Facebook or using these apps, create your thing that you want. And once it starts scaling, boom, then hire developers to make it legit for you. I think it's such a cool movement, man. I highly, highly recommend.
I'm looking at it now, actually. It's just, that's insane. I guess the idea is, so it's just stop, like, you don't have to code anymore. Yes, that is insane.
Yeah, it's like, whatever idea you have, you kind of just like bring it into existence without having to write the underlying tech, because a lot of that stuff's already made. It's like nowadays, like, yeah, you could build a car from scratch, or you can take like the body of a car, get really awesome wheels, get awesome tires, get an awesome hubcap, put those things together. It's like, I understand where, for me too, is kind of like at some point you're going to want to go deeper. So I think it's a good starting point to start off a business. Like think of Apple. People don't realize this, but Apple, for the longest time, when you were using their iPhone, it wasn't an Apple screen. You're actually using a fucking Samsung screen. And then most of the internal parts came from Intel. It came from Samsung. So the same shit that's in your Samsung phone, they put into iPhones. It wasn't until, or it actually isn't going to be until this year, that Apple started actually putting in their own chips. Apple's now creating their own underlying technology. And how long has it been? They're over $1 trillion company now, but up until now, they've been using other people's stuff to put it together. Like, why not? That makes so much sense to me. That's a better like unifying kind of dream of business, is it not? Like, hey, you offer something, you also offer something that can connect. I can connect the two, and now I have something new. Like, that makes so much sense to me.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. We're in interesting times, man. We're in very interesting times, I think. It's just so interesting to see how things have, and it's good as well that like there's these developments, because as I said, that it felt like there was a plateau where things just weren't advancing, and it's great to now see like the development of things like this. Yeah, I think there's just so many things that, it just makes me so interested to see what things are gonna, like, even if we look back, right, like let's say 15 years ago, for example, I don't think like YouTube, I don't think was around. It was 2005. Like YouTube wasn't really what it is now. There was no Instagram, like social media platforms, like things that really shape the kind of culture that we have right now, and just internet culture in general, or just so many things that we use in our day-to-day lives. They weren't really around like just 15 years ago. And it's now, imagine in the next 15 years where that can go, and the next 15 years after that. And it's just really interesting to kind of, it's very exciting, I think is the right word for it. Very exciting.
It's a very exciting world, man. And I'm very excited for the future. Another book that I can highly recommend based on that, if you're interested, is called The Future is Faster Than You Think. And
I've heard of this. Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. It's based off a trilogy. So if you're kind of interested in sort of the technology side of like business, Bold was the first one I read, BOLD. And that was from the same authors, from Stephen Kotler and Peter Diamandis. But this new book is about these exponential technologies that we're talking about. And then what happens when they start converging? Like what happens when like virtual reality starts converging with AI and all these other things? It's like, that's when shit happens, man. Like we start going into the science fiction future, the future that we all want, minus all of like, obviously the dystopian side. Like we know as humans what we want. Like we don't want it to be dystopian, and we want all the future technology, and we want life to be better. We want to be able to travel to Mars. But would you want to be able to live on Mars if they had a dictator? I don't know, man. That could be kind of weird. I think Elon is an Iron Man, not so much a Dr. Evil in my mind, but you never fucking know. Like you got to just keep. I don't know. It's kind of weird that Jeff Bezos looks exactly like an evil mastermind.
It's so true. It's so true, man. It is so true.
And I don't know. I'm not gonna that's a whole other thing right there, man. But I think like even with Elon Musk, like the one thing that I think had so much impact on his life, from what I know, is he read a lot of science fiction as a kid. And I think like you need to have the reality aspect of it, like the business side, but then also there's like who shapes those minds of the people that end up creating stuff? Who shapes the Elon Musk? And I got to tell you, from what I know, it's science fiction writers and filmmakers, right? It's, the people who watched 2001: A Space Odyssey, they're now working at SpaceX actually making that happen. So you almost need that imagination, you're like, what could be possible? Okay, now let's go beyond that. I don't give a shit what technology we actually have here. What is possible?
Yeah, I think imagination plays it's so huge in business. I think it's such an underplayed thing, extremely underplayed, underrated asset to have is imagination.
Man, I can't agree more. You came obviously from like this imagination from like acting and stuff. So for you, what was it that like really fostered it? Was it just being immersed in acting and really stretching out your imagination? Or do you think there's stuff you can I don't think you can read this kind of stuff, like maybe to like unlock the door, but I think it's like an active process, kind of like working out,
Yeah, agreed. It's tough with me because I've always been I'd been doing acting classes when I was like a young kid. Like my mom would take me to like Saturday classes to kind of give me something to do when I was younger. And I'd always been writing as well, like always. I remember vividly, it's very funny that I remember this, but my mom would get me like notepads, just blank notepads before I even knew how to write. And I would just scribble on them, and I wouldn't even know what I was writing. I would just imagine the story that I was writing, as weird as it sounds, and just be these massive notebooks with just scribbles on them. But I would have imagined the story as I was scribbling on there. Then later on, I did that when we got a computer, the first ever computer for the house. Like I would do the same thing on Word and just write complete gibberish words and imagine a story. And then I actually learned how to actually, write coherent sentences. So I've always been writing, always been interested. I've been heavily into fiction until I started getting into self-help. That was when I started reading a lot more nonfiction as well.
Me too, man. That's definitely a really big parallel. It's like I wasn't really interested at all in reading or anything unless it was like a comic book maybe, until, self-help and there's like these real ideas. But I totally know what you mean. It's like, how do you merge the two? And I think you've been doing a great job of that. And how can you take these stories now that you're talking about, like cults and MLM and these fake gurus, and then how can you write like a fictional story about it? It's like you're basing it off reality, but I think that's where a lot of really good stories are actually made of. So I want to tie all this in together. And this is what I personally think, man. You're going to look back on your YouTube career and what you're creating now as another stepping stone, I think, into like a whole other thing. And it's all just part of the process. And I know that, it's like this is not the end. It's like sort of another node in the network of things you'll start connecting, which is fucking cool.
Yeah. I'm very interested to see where it goes, considering this is like literally we're only months into it. You never know what's going to happen. I think YouTube is just going to be my home for a while, but who knows? It's definitely going to be an interesting few years. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that you found your platform, and I'm so glad that you're creating these videos because I can't wait anytime you post them. And if anytime you need another brain to kind of bounce ideas off of, I'm always around. We're just a Zoom call away. But dude, I want to just kind of end this with a question that I love to start ending these podcasts with, which is, what is something that you're extremely excited about coming up in the future, whether it's videos that you're producing, an idea that can spark into a new video, whatever it is. It could be something totally unrelated to YouTube channel. What's something that really excites you in the near future?
I was trying to think of something that is other than the YouTube channel, but I guess because of the context of how things are going right now, I think that is the big thing that nonstop I'm obsessing over is the channel and where the channel is going to go. And as I said, the big vision is to have this channel be like the Netflix of YouTube, where people literally anticipate and wait for the next thing, and to create almost a team with me. And like, in many ways, I even say this to to a couple of people. It's almost like me starting this channel was a way of getting back at anyone that rejected me when I was in an audition as an actor, where it's now like I'm creating my own like mini movies and like trying to build a team and a studio out. And in many ways, it almost feels like that's what's happening, but it excites me so much to see what I can do with the channel and how far I can take the channel. And always at the heart of it, always going to be this idea of creating really good quality content that is really entertaining, tells a really good story, and also educates people at the same time. And that to me, yeah, it's the things like this, something I think about in the morning, afternoon, like evening. It's literally an obsession at this point. Like I obsess over that vision, and that right now is the biggest thing for me that I'm excited about.
Man, that is awesome. I'm extremely excited. Again, anytime that you're saying that you're going to be putting out a new video, I get excited. So that's a really good thing as well. And I'm so glad that you're actually excited about that, you love doing it, because a lot of people, they would actually give up when they get to your point. They kind of like reach the peak. They're like, fuck that. But I love how you're just like, you have a chip on your shoulder. Like you have almost like another reason of like, fuck you guys. I want to make sure you see this. You got to see this. That's how Michael Jordan got so big, man. He had a chip on his shoulder. And I think I always bet on people who have a chip on their shoulder every time, because if you're trying to prove something, you will most likely get it done, especially if you have a great vision, you have great talent, and you have a great idea. And I think you have it all, man. So honestly, man, it's been a pleasure for you to be a guest here on Meld. And I hope we can do this again, because I feel like we've really only touched the surface. And I feel like every time you have a video, like there's so much you can talk about within that one topic. And we only have so much time that we can only cover so many topics in a certain amount of time. So just before you head out, where can people find you online? Where can they find your YouTube videos?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, and thank you as well for inviting me, Josh. I really appreciate it. I think this is pretty much the first podcast I've ever done, I think. Yeah. So this is officially the first one I've ever done. And if you guys want to find me, you can search James Jani on YouTube. Should be the first thing that comes up. And then if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's james.v.j. Let me just double check this. Let's see, james.v. Yeah, james.v.j on Instagram, and on Twitter it's at jamesvjani, JAN for November I. And that's my plug.
That's awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for taking the time, and let's do this again.
Would love to, Josh. Would love to.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Take care, man.